Have you ever spent hours, days, even weeks meticulously preparing a meal, only to hear someone casually say, "We'll just feed this to the dogs I have"? And in that single moment, everything in my life shifted forever. My name is Marilyn Thompson. I'm a mother-in-law, recently widowed, learning to navigate life on my own, while trying to stay connected to my family. After losing my husband Robert, I found myself cherishing every opportunity to be included in my son, David's life, and especially in the life of his family. I wanted to feel needed, valued, and appreciated, even if it meant bending over backward to maintain peace. 3 days ago, I arrived at Hannah's annual Christmas gathering, armed with dishes that had taken me 16 exhausting hours to prepare. Hand-rolled pasta, a prime rib that cost nearly half a month's expenses, and dessert so intricate I had to special order ingredients from across the country. Every detail had been carefully planned, every dish infused with love and hope that my efforts would be recognized. Hannah, my daughter-in-law, was dressed to the nines in a red silk dress, her makeup flawless, exuding confidence as she mingled with our friends and neighbors. I placed my dishes on the dining room table, expecting at least a polite smile, maybe a nod of thanks. Instead, she looked over, smirked, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, these will just feed them to the dogs after dinner." The words hit me like a slap. I felt the room tighten around me, the polite laughter of our guests, the flickers of discomfort on their faces, and in that instant the weight of 3 long years of subtle insults, dismissals, and manipulations from Hannah descended upon me. Every attempt I'd made to be helpful, to show love, and to maintain harmony had been met with disdain. And yet, as the laughter faded into an awkward silence, a quiet voice in my mind began to stir. Would I stay silent, swallow the humiliation as I had so many times before, or would I finally stand up? The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for my choice. In that moment, staring at Hannah's smug expression, I realized this was no ordinary Christmas party. It was the tipping point, the night when the years of patience, the silent endurance, and the desire to be valued collided with the truth I could no longer ignore. Would I let this moment pass, keeping my head down and pretending it didn't matter? Or would I finally speak, finally reclaim my dignity and expose the reality that had been hidden behind Hannah's carefully polished facade? For a moment, I froze, my hands trembling as I set down the last dish. The laughter from Hannah's cruel remark still echoed in my ears, but something inside me shifted. I thought of my son David, the man I had raised with love and care, and realized that my fear of causing tension in his marriage had kept me silent for far too long. No more. Tonight I would not stay invisible. I would not be the polite, overlooked mother-in-law any longer. I straightened my shoulders, took a deep breath, and decided it was time to reveal the truth. Over the past 6 months, I had quietly recorded conversations, subtle insults, and manipulative remarks that Hannah had made about me, our friends, and even her own family. Every word, every tone of mockery had been preserved, not out of spite, but as a shield for the day the facade cracked. And that day had arrived. I started with Hannah's closest friends, people who had always laughed at her jokes and praised her charm without seeing the damage beneath. Jessica. I began locking eyes with her first. "Hannah told me last week that you're drowning in debt from your new house, and that your husband is thinking of leaving because you care more about appearances than your marriage." Jessica's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. The room fell silent. Hannah's face shifted from smug confidence to sheer panic. I continued moving deliberately through the crowd. "Michael, Hannah says you have a drinking problem and that your wife only stays with you because she's afraid you'll hurt yourself otherwise." Michael's confident smile evaporated, replaced by wide-eyed shock. His wife clutched his arm, silently confirming what I had just revealed. I didn't stop there. One by one, I addressed our friends, the couple who always hosted the neighborhood parties, the neighbors who had been quietly kind for years. Each revelation I spoke aloud peeled back Hannah's polished mask, exposing the years of gossip, manipulation, and cruelty. Some guests whispered urgently to each other, others made a swift exit, and Hannah froze, her carefully curated social persona crumbling in front of everyone. As I spoke, I felt a sense of liberation coursing through me. This wasn't just about exposing Hannah. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing the people around me that even someone who has been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated has power. I could see the mixture of shock, disbelief, and slowly gratitude in the eyes of those who had unknowingly been caught in Hannah's web. By the end, I had not only defended myself, but I had also given others the courage to see the truth about her behavior. The room, once tense with polite awkwardness, now buzzed with an electric energy, the satisfaction of justice, the surprise of revelation, and the relief of finally speaking truths long ignored. In that moment, I understood something vital. Middle-aged women have a unique strength. Our experience, our intuition, our patience, and yes, even our quiet preparation can become formidable tools when wielded with courage. I wasn't just standing up for myself. I was standing up for all the quiet witnesses of Hannah's manipulations, and the empowerment that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt before. The question now wasn't whether I could protect myself, it was how I would use this power going forward. A few days after the party, my phone rang with a number I didn't immediately recognize. It was Richard Wells, the attorney who had handled Robert's estate. My heart skipped a beat as he explained that there were documents Robert had left behind, documents that I was only to receive if certain conditions were met, conditions I hadn't even known existed. Curiosity and apprehension mixed as I arranged a meeting at his office. The moment I walked into that room, surrounded by dark wooden shelves of legal tomes and certificates lining the walls, I felt a shiver of anticipation. Richard laid out a series of folders and envelopes, each one meticulously organized. As he explained it, became clear that Robert had been preparing for the unthinkable long before he passed away. He had anticipated Hannah's manipulations, her subtle psychological warfare, and her attempts to isolate me from David and the grandchildren. In his foresight, Robert had created a trust fund, multiple investment accounts, and property deeds totaling nearly $2 million. But these assets weren't simply to provide financial security. They were part of a carefully crafted plan to protect me, and indirectly David, from a woman he had recognized as controlling and dangerous. Robert had included explicit instructions that I could only gain access to these assets if I demonstrated courage, stood up to abuse, and refused to let fear dictate my actions. It wasn't just about money. It was a test of strength, resilience, and dignity. As Richard explained, Robert had even documented strategies he called Operation Truth, ways to gather evidence, record conversations, and expose toxic behavior when the time was right. Everything I had done at the Christmas party, every word I spoke, every revelation I shared aligned perfectly with his plan. I realized then that my so-called outburst wasn't impulsive. It had been a carefully timed act of courage, exactly what Robert had envisioned. I sat there absorbing the magnitude of his foresight. The twist was profound. This inheritance wasn't merely financial, it was a tool of empowerment. It was Robert's way of ensuring that I could protect myself and my son from manipulation without leaving room for Hannah to regain control. It was both a reward for bravery and a shield for our family's well-being. A lump formed in my throat as I considered what this meant. My husband had anticipated my vulnerability, understood Hannah's nature before I ever did, and had prepared a path for me to assert my independence with evidence and authority. For the first time, I felt the full weight of his love and strategic foresight. The trust, the documents, the detailed instructions, they were a lifeline, a roadmap, and a silent but powerful reminder that I was not alone. As I left the attorney's office clutching the folders, I realized something liberating. Everything that had happened at the party, every tense stare, every gasp, every revelation had been leading to this moment. I had been ready to claim my dignity, and now, thanks to Robert's meticulous planning, I also had the power to secure our family's future. The inheritance was not just money, it was a fortress, a safeguard against control and manipulation, a tangible expression of a husband's enduring love. And for the first time in years, I felt not just vindicated, but unstoppable. Just when I thought the storm of the Christmas party had passed, a formal letter arrived at my door. Certified thick and intimidating, it bore the emblem of a law firm. Hannah was claiming harassment. She demanded that I cease and desist, threatening legal action for alleged defamation and emotional distress. For 3 years, I had endured her manipulations, tolerated her subtle cruelty, and kept my mouth shut to preserve family peace. Now she was casting herself as the victim. I didn't panic. I had spent months preparing for this eventuality. I contacted Patricia Lewis, a seasoned attorney known for her expertise in harassment, elder abuse, and family manipulation cases. Patricia immediately understood the scope of the evidence I had compiled and the pattern of abuse Hannah had demonstrated not only toward me, but toward others in our circle. She called it a textbook case of psychological and financial control executed over years. The legal process began in earnest. Patricia and I meticulously organized all the proof-recorded conversations where Hannah demeaned me and others' emails illustrating her manipulative tactics, financial records showing coercion, and witness statements from friends and neighbors who'd been caught in her web. Each piece of evidence painted a clear, damning picture of the systematic abuse Hannah had carried out under the guise of charm and social grace. David, my son, stood by me through it all. Together, we confronted Hannah in a series of legal meetings and mediated sessions. The tension in those rooms was palpable. Every word I spoke, every document I presented, exposed her attempts to isolate me, control family decisions, and maintain dominance over our lives. For the first time, the full extent of her manipulations was visible, not only to David, but to all parties involved. The carefully maintained illusion of her perfect, harmonious life began to unravel before our eyes. The court process was grueling but empowering. Each hearing reinforced a lesson I had long suspected, that truth, courage, and evidence hold far more power than fear or intimidation. Hannah's confident posture faltered as the reality of her actions became undeniable. Her social influence crumbled, and the more she attempted to defend herself, the clearer it became that she had underestimated both my preparation and the support of my son. Eventually, the outcome reflected the years of patience, courage, and strategic planning. Hannah's reputation was shattered, her threats nullified, and her legal leverage over me and the family eliminated. She could no longer dictate how I lived or interacted with David and the grandchildren. The weight of fear that had hung over me for so long lifted in a tangible way, replaced by an exhilarating sense of justice. Through this ordeal, my relationship with David deepened immeasurably. We had faced the storm together, and in doing so, we reaffirmed our bond. He saw in real time the strength that comes from standing firm, speaking truth, and refusing to accept abuse. I had not only defended myself, but had become a visible example of empowerment, not just for David, but for all the women friends and family who had silently observed Hannah's behavior over the years. By the end of the legal proceedings, the room for doubt or fear was gone. The experience instilled in me, and I hoped in every woman watching, the confidence that justice is possible, even against long-standing manipulation. There was satisfaction in knowing that by claiming my voice, I had not only secured my dignity, but had created a path for others to recognize and resist abuse. The emotions were complex relief, pride, and the quiet thrill of empowerment all mingled together, leaving a lasting impression of hope and resilience. The key takeaway for anyone watching is simple yet profound courage, backed by preparation. Patience and evidence can dismantle even the most controlling forces, restoring dignity and reinforcing the strength inherent in standing up for oneself. Looking back on everything that happened, I realize there are lessons I want every woman watching to take to heart. First and foremost, never underestimate the strength of a middle-aged woman. Our intuition, Our life experience and our careful observation are not just personal tools. They are powerful weapons when wielded with courage. I learned that protecting yourself is not selfish. It's not about creating conflict or being difficult. It's about asserting your right to live with dignity, respect, and peace of mind. When someone tries to manipulate, isolate, or belittle you, it's not a reflection of your weakness. It's an invitation to recognize your own power. Recording conversations, saving evidence, and planning your actions are not measures of paranoia. They are strategies. They allow you to confront manipulation, not with anger alone, but with clarity, authority, and confidence. Silence can sometimes be a trap, giving control to the wrong person. Choosing when to speak and how to act is one of the smartest forms of resistance. I also found a way to turn what could have been a painful inheritance into something meaningful. Using the assets my husband Robert thoughtfully prepared, I established a foundation to support older adults, helping them recognize financial abuse, defend their independence, and build strong, informed communities. What started as a personal victory became a tool to empower others, ensuring that our experiences could create lasting impact. Most importantly, I want to remind every woman over 45 watching this story, do not let anyone dictate your value. Your voice matters. Your choices matter. And even in situations where you feel overlooked, your courage can create change, not only for yourself, but for those around you. Thank you for listening to my story. If it inspires you, please like, share, and comment below with your own experiences or thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to Real Her Stories for more tales of courage, resilience, and the quiet power of women who refuse to be silenced.